Thank you, PJ. It is time for another edition of the Pair and a Spare podcast. I'm Justin Gaard from The Fan. From football across London, we have Chip Scoggins, and Randy Byrne is back with us. Ryan Burns from GopherIllustrated.com. It's the first thing I saw this morning. Way to lean into the bit, Burnsy. When you preemptively lean into a bit, it's better. You take the power of the bit away from people like me when you preemptively do it. So welcome back. How is everybody?
How you doing, Chipper? I just noticed that. I like the guy that just tweeted at us, like, called you Randy for this.
It's
The
Randy
amount
of
people
that
came up to me on my walk to Oak Street, which I know now what it's called. I now know what it's called, Guardsy. Oak Street, not the street in between Mariucci and Huntington.
Oak Street
called me Randy. I probably had 3 people between the stadium and that stage. So my entire life has been one big bit. My entire friend group just makes fun of me the entire time. They have my entire life, so I know how to lean into it.
Yeah, there's nothing better than just bros being bros, just ripping on each other. That's that's why guys exist. Let's be honest. I'm even seeing it with my 10-year-old right now. My wife went into his school yesterday, and they all just started chanting her name in the lunchroom. Got in trouble, and I just laughed. I said, "That's the best." I said, "I wish I was there. I would have been chanting it too." Just there's nothing better than just dudes being dudes, man. It's all we've got. Let's be honest. We're all on the grind all the time. It's all we've got. We're glad to see you, Chipper. You made it back from across the pond. You got off the plane like 10 minutes ago. What was the charging situation in London? How did you keep your phone at 100%?
I got one of the special adapters.
Special adapters. What does that mean?
Or what do you call it? No, special plugins. What do you call them?
Yeah, for the plugs, right? Because European plugs are different than ours, is what I've been told.
Okay. Yes, they are.
I'm sure you got that for like 6 months ago to be organized.
Yeah, I did, and I actually had 2 of them because
gotta be prepared, Guardsy.
What was that? The one in my something just popped up. The one in my hotel room was different than the one at the stadium. So I was covered. As I was telling you guys, and you're telling me to stream the game on my phone, the Gopher game.
You're going to bring this up. Go ahead.
Well, so the media shuttle ride from hotel was about 8 miles from the hotel to the stadium, 90 minutes, hour and a half to get there. And we still had like a half a mile walk after that. My phone would have been dead trying to stream that from London. There's no chance.
How long do you think that your phone battery lasts, Chip?
I don't know.
If you're streaming something,
2 hours, I don't know.
On average, like if
2
you
hours,
90
it's the most charged phone in the country. 2 hours?
If you're streaming a game in another country, I don't know.
No, your phone will go from
ever
like 100% to like 60.
Yeah, I can't take that chance. Can't take that. You don't know. You don't know what you're walking. You don't know what you're walking into.
That's actually one of the bits we need to do on one of the road trips. Is we have to drain Chip's battery like throughout the day. Now we'll have lifeboats, Chip. We'll make sure that we have chargers around. So if it gets to 2%, which you might be dead by then, if it ever gets to 2%, we'll make sure you have plenty of time. We'll have portable chargers. We'll have, like when people run the marathon, we'll have water stations along the route so that if there's an emergency or something, we'll make sure. But we have to do a bit to show you how long your phone can actually have a charge to work. I think it's probably days longer than you think it actually is.
Yeah, it probably is. I just don't, I don't know why you risk it. But I almost had an issue. We almost had an international incident.
Oh, boy.
Because when I fly, I like to have my phone plugged in the whole time, right?
It's free charging. Of course, that's what you said. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't?
Not if you fly Virgin Atlantic.
Uh-oh.
They don't like you to have your phone charged in when you're taking off or landing. I have no idea why, but I was admonished twice, both taking off and landing, because I like to have my phone charged in. Like I want it plugged in, like in the seat back, but with the cord in there. But on Virgin Atlantic, they don't want you to have that for takeoff and landing. I don't know why. I can't understand.
You want to make sure the plane can get up in the air. We want to, everybody. These are big planes, right? These are. Huge
I thought about that for an hour, trying to figure out the rationale between why I couldn't have my. Like, I don't think it's a safety issue, right?
I don't know. Maybe it's a power thing. But cruising altitude, you can plug it in, obviously, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what's wrong with that? So just wait 15 minutes.
I want it the whole time.
They want to take the plane off. They want to make sure the plane gets in the air.
Like my phone being charged in is going to be the difference between us landing and not.
You never know. You never know, as you say.
Have we ever got to the bottom of why are you the way that you are with your 100%, Chip? Did you have an incident back in the days of brick phones when those brick phones used to last for weeks without being charged? Why do you always have to have? Did you have a phone die at some point and it just scarred you for life?
I don't know really. You're asking me why I am the way I am. How long does this thing last?
Yeah, we'll talk football next week. Let's unpack this. We'll talk USC next week.
Should I lay down on my bed while we're going through some things? I don't know. You got to be 100%, man. And I wanted the whole plane ride. Think that Delta, you can have the whole plane ride. Like when I had to make a stop in Boston, they didn't say anything. They didn't have a problem with me having it plugged in when we took off. That plane took off and landed okay.
He's going to write a very strongly worded letter to Virgin Atlantic. You know?
I
was just curious. Yeah, she told me to take my thing out. I couldn't.
All right, well, drop it in the comments here on the YouTube channel or tweet at us if anybody knows why Virgin Atlantic stifles your ability to charge on takeoff and landing, but not the 7.5-hour transatlantic flight, which apparently isn't enough for our guy Chip. Charge Across America. That's your new name. Charge Across the Atlantic. But in all seriousness, have you seen any of the Gophers USC game? Because we do have to spend a minute or two. Okay.
I saw highlights. Yeah, I saw the important plays. And there were two of them. There were two.
Basically, you didn't have the ability. You have not learned how to get your I assume you have Xfinity or cable, or are you a cord cutter? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
no, I got cable. Yeah.
We need. In the Rose Bowl press box, I will show you the Xfinity Stream app. It's a game changer. It's wonderful. I will do it for you because you could have, while your phone was charged after takeoff, while you're at cruising altitude, you could have watched the game on your way back from London or on your way back from Boston with the Xfinity Stream app, Chip. We will get it done. If your wife and kids will not bring you into the 21st century, the Parent of Spare podcast will drag you through.
Thank you.
So that you could have downloaded the game off of your DVR. You could have watched it. I do it constantly. It's the best. And I'm not just saying that because I've endorsed Xfinity for over a decade. I'm saying it because it's absolutely a lifesaver.
You get paid to tell me that, yeah. It sounds complicated.
That tone on K-Fan, those commercials always telling me how great Xfinity is.
It's easy. But Bernsey, how befuddled, how gobsmacked were we when we were trying to tell Chip when he said, I won't be able to watch the game until I get home? And we're like, just stream it. And his response was classic Chip, like, I'll be dead before that happens.
Yeah, he's like, there's no shot. There is no shot. Yeah, I even said
I did wake up.
Version, is that the one you watched?
What?
I texted you the condensed version.
Yeah, I watched that. Okay. Yeah, it was great.
Right.
But I did wake up at what I tweet. It was 4:45 a.m. Old man had to get up and use the bathroom. Burns, you'll learn about that in 20 years. So I check the phone and I get all the tweets and text messages and Koi Perich references, and so I scroll through Twitter real quick, and I watched all the, I saw the pick, and then I looked at the scores, and I like college football Saturday, and I saw my Vols loss, and Bama. We'll get to that, but I wish I could have been there. I'm all for a good field storming.
All right, Bernsey. So we'll let you lead it off. It was, a crazy Saturday in college football, which was very fun. Things that have never happened before. Speaking of Alabama, Lane Kiffin stops his press conference while that game is going on and says, "This is literally once in a lifetime. We've got to watch this." Basically, with a nice little dig. Like Vandy's never going to beat Alabama. This is like once in history that this is going to happen. But go ahead, Bernsey. You've got the floor. Your reaction, your opinions, your thoughts on the Gophers' thrilling come from behind in the fourth quarter upset victory over USC, the Trojans. Bernsey, your thoughts?
It's certainly one of the best wins in the Fleck era. I think it's somewhere in the top 5, wherever you want to put it. Whatever it is, the construct of it, where they've been at the last 18 games, whether it's just USC coming into town, you sell out the stadium. And then the way you finally put together your most complete 60 minutes. Now, I still don't think it was their best game. They didn't have an out-of-body experience to beat USC, which kind of comes back down to, Fleck's been talking about it, this is a good football team, yet they just hadn't been able to put it together. And they finally put it together for 60 minutes. Your offense didn't shoot itself in the foot. Your defense had about some of the most timely turnovers you will ever see in a football game.
Right.
Especially all three of those, plus a missed field goal from we didn't even get to talk about it last week. I forgot. The Michael Lance revenge game. Are you kidding me? You know how much I like to take a stroll down Narrative Street?
I know. You're too worried about the Rutgers game. You've lost your focus. You've lost your focus.
Well, that's about 26 days away. Not that I got it circled on a calendar, which is right over there. But, Chip, it was finally a game in which your Gophers put it together. Your head coach played as aggressive with his mindset as we've seen, which I know you and many others have been calling for a very long time.
Yeah, it just looking at it, it looks like they actually ran the ball, which has been missing. And I think that's a big part of probably why they won. I don't know if anybody's screamed louder than I have for PJ to be aggressive. I gotta be honest with you guys. I probably would have kicked the field goal.
I said I would too.
I would have kicked the field goal. No. I didn't get to see the game. So if you're telling me that USC was marching up and down the field offensively, that probably, but with them not having timeouts, I probably would have kicked it because, man, if you don't get it and then you lose the game, that's tough. But I as I said in my Football Across Minnesota, I applaud PJ. I mean, that's a coach that went for it, and that's what you've been wanting to do, particularly because it's a ranked team. It's USC, and he even said how many chances are you going to get against the 11th team in the country when you're at home to put them away or to go, to really put a dagger in there. And so I applaud him. He showed a lot of guts and a lot of faith in his players, and he was rewarded for it.
Yeah, I'll say, and I said this to PJ in the post game. The radio crew went around the horn and said, "What would you do?" I said, "Kick it too." And then later that night, I'm like, "I'm an idiot." But I think I'll blame PJ because I've been beaten down by field goals and touchdown situations over the years, and watching the Big Ten West all those years kick field goals, right? Wisconsin, Kirk Ferentz, they all play this way. But when he said that after the game, the quote that you mentioned, how often do you have 6 inches to beat USC at home? I said, of course you go for it. Mm-hmm. And from what I heard in, kind of the locker room area after the game, there was there wasn't a lot of deliberation. There was not a lot of, it was basically like PJ was on it from the beginning, basically, even on the third down, like we're going for it. Like there was no hesitation. It was, and it makes sense because they were moving the ball down the field and the Gophers needed turnovers to keep them away. So I loved it. It was great. And when he said that, because I don't think people understand, like it is USC we're talking about, like one of the most historical programs ever. Like we talk about the Penn State win, like that USC's up there with those guys, right? How many schools are more historical than USC where you're not going to get many opportunities? They're always going to be on paper better than you, right? Like there's never going to be a time where you go, Minnesota has out-recruited USC or they're ranked higher than USC. Like that's just never going to happen. And so to knock this out like that, it was absolutely the right call. And I'm glad he had the stones to do it because the radio crew was shrinking, Bernsey. We were absolutely shrinking.
Well, up in the press box, I was pounding the table. You have to go for this. To PJ's point, you got 6 inches to beat USC, the number 11 team in the country at home. They have been moving the ball all night on you, which, we'll get to the defense, but the defense being able to have 4 USC possessions end within their own 35 and get 0 points is one of the under-talked about parts of that game. And we'll get to Lincoln Riley, of which I don't know if you both have seen. Lincoln Riley came out yesterday at his press conference and was complaining about how that call should have never been overturned, how he complained to the Big Ten refs. He doesn't get an answer back. He's talked with them since the game. And I'll say this, I thought on the third down he got in. Mm-hmm. And then on the fourth down, it certainly looked like he got in, and then they ruled it on the field. And one of the things that I know your guy Grimm has been talking about, Guardsy, is you're asking the 2 guys that probably have the worst angle of that specific play, the tush push, you can call it the polar plunge, the North Star, whatever. Like, it's the worst angle. And the question is, why aren't there better angles for that, or like an overhead camera? I feel like it's the second consecutive week we've talked about this, where there's a couple of calls in that Michigan game where if you just have a better angle for all the cameras that are in these stadiums, they could change outcomes. But you have to go for it in that spot, because Fleck is right in that USC was going to get the ball into field goal range. Yeah. No doubt about it. Yeah. And if you kick the field goal, then you're just going to go to overtime. Like, you weren't going to get a stop there. I'm sorry, you weren't. And if they have to then play for the end zone, which they did, that's where the kid from Esco can come up, or whoever the safety was going to be, and make a play. Or even going for it earlier in that second half on 4th and 2 out of the Wildcat. I think Minnesota is now 7 of 7 on 4th down this year, which they've been much more aggressive than what we've seen. But going for that in that spot is what we have been banging the table for, and I'm glad the head coach took the chance.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me. Like, if you just looked at it like I did, just from the scenario without seeing the game, like, okay, 59 seconds, the other team doesn't have timeouts. But if you watch it and you know that USC is moving up and down the field pretty much how they want on offense, then you have to go for that, because you have to factor in that that's going to happen and continue again, because you're probably going to play loose defensively to keep it in front of you. So they're going to get big chunk plays. And so they're going to get at minimum into field goal position. And so I after I'm sure if I'd been sitting in the press box watching it, I'd be like, you got to go for this, because you can't. Lincoln Riley is good enough coach that he's going to find a way to get hit in that quarterback and, really sling it in those receivers.
See, we say he's a good enough coach, and he's one of the best schemers. But the hill I've died on since Saturday is Lincoln Riley lost that game because he refused to run the football in the key moments of that game. Mm-hmm. I mean, Chip, USC's running backs averaged over 7 yards a carry on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And then you get it 3rd and 4 at the Minnesota 35, which to me is 4-down territory for you at that time. Mm-hmm. And you throw it? You try to throw a slot fade? Are you kidding me? John Joyner gets the hit. Devin Williams interception. Gopher offense goes down, ties the game. And you're thinking to yourself, or at least I was in the press box, all right, it's 17-all. Lincoln Riley has learned from his mistake. He's going to run the football on this drive like he did the first drive of the second half, which USC goes 12 plays, ends in a touchdown. They never had a 3rd down. And what does he do? Drops back to pass. John Joyner again forces an intentional grounding. 2nd and 25. That whole drive goes pear-shaped. I could not fathom, and I still cannot fathom, why Lincoln Riley just did not run the football. And I know a lot of people, I've asked them, and they've told me it's just who he is.
Yep.
And it's just goodness gracious.
I think coaches just kind of they stick to what they believe in, who they are. I mean, I saw it on Sunday in London. I mean, Kevin O'Connell just kept airing out deep passes when none of them were connecting, but it's just like, this is who we are, and this is why I'm going to do it. And I don't disagree with you, Bernsey. It is sort of confounding when you're averaging 7 yards a clip running the ball, why you would abandon that completely in the 4th quarter when you have a chance to really kind of milk the clock and, take some time off and take control of the game there. But these coaches, sometimes I think they're too smart for their own good. They just kind of stick to who they are and think that they can keep their foot on the gas.
It was a dire situation, 17-10, 3rd and 4 in Gopher territory, because any points there, it's probably over, right? The game. Yeah. But it was interesting to hear PJ this week talk about what they gave up defensively, basically, and saying, we wanted them to run the ball. And he essentially said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, we knew at some point they would want to throw it. And so he's basically saying, we knew that at some point they weren't going to be able to help themselves. Even if they were, that's essentially what he's saying. We knew that Lincoln was going to get itchy instead of just looking at it. Like a lot of times, PJ, I mean, we always talk about how he just wants to run the clock and get the hell out of there and shrink the game as much as he can. He'll run the play clock down and call timeouts randomly to us. To him, he's milking every single second to try to end the game. But PJ essentially said, I knew Lincoln couldn't help himself. I mean, if you want to be like brash about it. I'm saying it that way. Lincoln wouldn't be able. He'd get too jumpy with his play card, and we would just have to make that play when it presented. And Ja Joyner changed the whole game. I mean, you said it on Go for Gridiron, Bernsey, like one of the most benign stat lines you'll ever see for how much of an impact one guy had. What do you have, like a tackle and maybe like one, like I don't even know what he had.
Yeah, he had 1 total tackle and 1 tackle for loss.
Yeah, okay. And he had the pressure that changed the game with the pick, and he had the pressure that gave the
intentional
grounding. You nailed it. Ja Joyner changed the entire game in those 2 plays, and it's because Lincoln Riley couldn't help himself. I mean, he just couldn't get out of his own way.
Well, that's even where Corey Heatherman talked about it before last Wednesday. He was just like, I don't even think they want to run the football. Now he's like, we're going to find out. But it's fascinating that that's the mindset that they had, and they ended up being right in it. And I wrote about it before the game where USC had one of the highest passing rates over expectation. So if you think about it as like a neutral game script, like that play 3rd and 4 or 1st and 10 were, they passed the ball at a much higher clip than about 95% of college football. And then Minnesota staff knew that, but it's just fascinating to see it in action where everybody in the stadium is like, run the football. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And yet he can't help himself.
It'll be interesting to see how that philosophy plays in the Big Ten, because at some point you got to run the ball in the Big Ten. You just have to.
Yep.
I mean, the weather's going to be bad for some of these games they come play. I wonder if I'd be curious to see if he adjusts his coaching philosophy, or he said, "No, this is who we are. This is what I'm doing. We're USC. We're going to throw the ball," because it sounds weird because we've been begging PJ to throw the ball, but you still have to be able to run the ball. And you look at the Gopher stats and their offense. Do they win that game if Darius Taylor doesn't have a big game running the ball and gives them some kind of balance to where you can lean on that when you need to? USC can't lean on that or refuses to lean on it when they needed to.
Yeah, they can. They just didn't do it. They could lean on it because the Gophers were being leaned on. And but at the moment of truth, he just could not help himself. Go ahead, Bernsey.
Well, that's where you mentioned Darius, and Darius gets a season high in touches with 30. But I think the most critical part about it was his 4th quarter touches. He's only got about 20, 22 going into that 4th quarter, Chip. He touches the ball 8 times for 60 yards. And on 5 of those 8 touches, a first down is the result.
Yeah.
Turns out if you just don't run him into the ground over the first half of the season, which they didn't, or the first half of the game, which they didn't, you can then lean on him in some of these bigger spot games, and you're rewarded because of that. I mean, how long have we been talking on this bleeping podcast about Darius Taylor is not Mohamed Ibrahim? You have to be able to mix in other backs, which they did with Marcus Major, getting nearly double-digit touches. But Darius continues to be an outstanding receiver. I think that was the most juice, as the kids would say, that he was run with all season. I think he set the tone on that opening drive where he popped the safety. All I could hear was, who's the NBA announcer? Last name Breen, Mike Breen, right?
Mike Breen,
bang. Just going, bang! Once he hit him. But Darius was huge. Max Brosmer was incredibly consistent.
Yep.
And I think most importantly, the offensive line finally figured their S out. No penalties. They went away from inside zone. They got moving laterally with outside zone. Darius found ways to do it. And then Greg Harbaugh with his screens, man. Like, those screens were some of the most well-timed and well-executed screens that you will see, which, when was the last time we talked about a Gopher offense that's running screens?
Well, we saw it in fall camp, when they were working on it. It's like, this has to be a big part of this offense because, 1, it fits Brosmer, and 2, get the ball in Darius Taylor's hands a different way than just line them up in the backfield. It makes too much sense, and so it's good that they're incorporating, and they're good at it.
Yeah, Marcus Major can do it too, and we said going into the game that we've talked about the running game all year. If you can't run the ball against USC, that's when you've really got problems. Because I think you can explain some of it away through the first 5 games of you're going against Michigan, you're going against Iowa. It's going to be a little trickier to run the ball against some of those teams. But if you can't figure out a way to hold the ball and run it on USC, at least more efficiently than you have, then it's a 4-alarm fire. And they were able to do it. And the screens were great. There was even one, Bernsey, I think the pass got deflected on a 3rd down. They were trying to get it to Daniel Jackson, I think. I think that one was set up really well too. If he catches it, I think that was another perfectly timed one. And wide receiver screens are always tricky. we all remember the Chris Ottman Bell one against Penn State for the touchdown, but then there's like 50 of them that go for like 2 yards.
You got to block them.
You got to block them. They're hard to execute. That one appeared to be blocked up pretty well. The ball just didn't get there. So we might even be talking about another explosive screenplay. But it was a great, right off that interception, great design screen that I don't think we've seen all year. Where Taylor runs across the line, they fake it the other way, they kick it to him, and he goes. Then Marcus Major has another big run. They crack that off right there. And now you're in business, you're dealing, and USC is reeling. It was just a super opportunistic night for the offense, and they capitalized on all of it.
And I looked it up the other day in London when I was doing FAM that Brosmer's completion percentage, I think, is 67. He's like 1 percentage point higher than Tanner Morgan's school record set in 2022. I think he was at 66 point something. So PJ threw that 70% out, in preseason. We're like, I think we understand why he threw that number out. This is what he envisioned. A lot of screens, a lot of quick hitting stuff. A quarterback that when he gets in the rhythm can give you a 16 for 20 performance throwing the ball, and he's going to be highly accurate. But those screens you can get good chunk plays. That's how you can keep the possession. It doesn't have to. I know PJ's big about time of possession, ball control. That's another way to do it. It doesn't always have to be through the run.
So what does this win do for A, the season, B, the temperature, C, the program? Take it however you want. I'll just say this. People have been asking me, like, how was it? What was it like? And I just said, it was necessary. They needed it. Like, everybody needed this, right? PJ needed it. The team needed it. The fans needed it. Everybody that's interested in Gopher football needed a night like this, and they finally got it.
I said at the other, was it last podcast or the other one, they had a bad loss. I said, it was before Michigan, it was after Iowa. He needs a win in a big way, and not just a Northwestern or Purdue win. He needs a win that gets people feeling good about the program and the direction, and not saying, okay, where's this going? That was a one that lets people exhale a little bit.
Yeah.
It lowers it lowers the temperature.
I just think for a fan base and I talked about it on Gopher Gridiron Radio, that maybe I don't give enough credit to at times. They sold out the game, back-to-back sellouts, sold out just before kickoff. But to give them that game where it's fun throughout, goes down to the wire, you win with the pride of Esco at the very end, and then you're able to rush the field. I can't tell you how many people have emailed me, sent me a text, or just even in person come up and said, I was at the game. I rushed the field with my son or whoever it may be. And it's a moment that we'll never forget. And that's where you just needed a moment like that to be able to give this fan base hope again. Now it's what you do with it. And you can't now go out to UCLA and lose to a team that is very banged up, that hasn't been playing well. I mean, you still have to be able to now figure out what to do over these next 6 games. But I think for a fan base that can kind of be the forgotten middle child within this sports market, certainly this very pro sports town, to be able to give your fan base something like that. And I'll say this, I don't think the student section has ever been better.
Agreed.
I mean, you guys have seen Gopher student sections at football games for a very long time.
Without doubt.
The way that they continue to show up in droves, and I will die on the hill of, it's the student section that drives the rest of the stadium.
Yep.
100%.
And
100%.
that thing was full again before kickoff for a 2-3 football team that had lost at home in a couple of, very heartbreaking ways in North Carolina and Iowa earlier this season. Yet they continue to come out. I mean, I just want to applaud the student section because so much of that energy, and as one 17-year-old kid put to me this morning, the aura. I'm still learning what the aura means, but apparently the aura was immaculate, Chip. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, I know what aura is, but I as someone who's been going to their games for 20 years, it used to be a bit. We used to take pictures of the student section for those 11 o'clock things, and you could, count them up. This started to me, was it last year or 2 years ago? That
after COVID.
Section, after COVID, the students, and I credit PJ for really building that up. Because you're right, Burns, these student sections make the stadium. It's not the people that spend a bunch of money. It's the student sections that give it the vibe or the aura. And it is, you can bank on it. no matter the opponent, the student section is going to be full. They're going to be there. And really, I think just last year is the first year, or maybe, since COVID, you could applaud them because they are bringing it and they're having fun with it. And they got all the different cheers that they're doing now and the different things that we didn't see previously from Gopher football. So that is a big part of the game day atmosphere, and they do deserve praise for it.
Well, I think 2019 obviously jump-started a lot of things, getting people interested, and then it went away the next year. I mean, people forget there was no there were no fans in the crowd the next year, so it was almost like the upperclassmen coming out of that wanted to get back to 2019, but then that also passes it down to the next generation of this is what we do here. If you're in this fraternity, if you're hanging out on University Avenue before on a Saturday, we have the sign that says, you honk, we drink, and then we go to the game. And this is what we do. And I've been telling, and also the season ticket base, I'm sure we could get numbers on this, but it just feels like a younger crowd. Like I think starting in 2015 when they went to the Citrus Bowl, that kind of shifted. That to me started the shift of who was going to the games, who was traveling. They brought 20,000 people to Orlando. Like you've had a good solid decade basically of relevant football for the most part, and big wins and good experiences and good bowl trips between Orlando and Tampa. So now it's part of people's lives that it wasn't when I was growing up, certainly. Like it feels more like the border schools now of, every couple of years, we're going to get a January 1st bowl. Every couple of years, we're going to have the axe or we're going to have the pig. And this is just kind of what we do. Like even talking to people on Sunday at a Vikings party thing I had to do for the station, there were multiple people like my age. They're like, we've been season ticket holders since we got out, basically. And this is what we do. And of course, one of them was like, last night was the one game we didn't go to because we had to run the Twin Cities 10 mile today. And so we had to take that L. But I just think it's part of, because I agree with you, Bernsey. I was surprised that it was sold out and that the vibe was that good. But then I started to think about it. The vibes have been pretty good with the crowd for a while. Like the people, people always focus on the visiting sideline where they have trouble selling tickets from time to time. Like when I turn around and the home sideline from goal line to goal line is always packed. Like those tickets are gone. Student section's packed. And then you've got a decent chunk on the visitor sideline that are good. And then they just have to fill in those corners. Like they've done a good job. They've really done a good job of cultivating that. And you said it, Chip. I think PJ has done a good job of, this year making it a fun place to be and a fun place to play. And it's a vibe. And they've only got 2 home games left, by the way. They got Maryland and Penn State. It's pretty crazy.
Well, that's what I've always said too, is like, having grown up, like there was not even a thought that you wouldn't go to the game on Saturday if you were a student at Tennessee. Like, what? Come on, you were not going to the game? That's what I've always wanted. Is like, I never understood, like, there's only, 5 of these. 6 of these, It's like, why wouldn't you go? I mean, even if it's a 11 o'clock kick or whatever, drag your butt out of bed and go to the game. I mean, it's it's not like the Twins where they're asking you to go a bunch of times, right? There's and the tailgating. I think the tailgating lots have
gotten way better.
The biggest parts of it. I mean, I was walking around in one of the lots before the game, and it's just
people tell me it's become like a fun party.
It's like the 25 to 40 crowd has been reinvigorated.
Yes.
Yeah.
The 40 to 60 you might have lost per se because of the win-loss and everything, but it's that 20 to 40 crowd that has really just taken a jump here, I think, in the last few years.
Yes.
And that's what's been so fun to see.
Yes.
Well, and that's why a win like that matters. Like
it does.
Like this is why if you're a student and you're a freshman and you got to storm the field after a great game and Koi Perich makes this interception, you think you're not going to remember that? So like when you become 28 and you build this connection, or if you're a kid that went to the game, that's how you build an emotional attachment to something. And so that's why, as frustrating as the losses have been the last couple of years of not breaking through and not getting to the Big Ten championship, this is why you need these kind of wins to build momentum in your program.
Yep.
Well, you mentioned you woke up at 4:45 to use the restroom, Chip. Yeah. So when you saw that Koi Perich was the one of all people, how excited? How was your heart aflutter? Did you have to go take some medication to settle down? What was that moment like for you?
I was able to fall back to sleep, but I was thinking about this because I saw the replay of him leaping up, and I love the photo that several people have seen, but our guy Alex Corman, our photographer there, got a great photo of it. And I think I told you guys last week that when I went up to Esco and I watched this kid spring off the floor and is throwing down alley-oop dunks and windmills, and I said, some of that stuff translates. You can see them kid on a basketball court and say, that'll carry over to the football field. That's the first thing I thought. It was like I told those guys, like I saw him do this when he's dunking a ball. We said it, we're a broken record. Put the kid on the field. He's going to make a play. He's special. We've seen it from, going up there. This kid is just unique. And the more opportunities you give him, the more big plays like that he's going to turn in. And it didn't surprise me one bit when that ball's in the air that he's going to leap up and out jump everybody to go get it. Because when I went up there, I went up there 2 days, and I went there to watch them play basketball. They're playing Cherry, Isaac Osama, and that was a state championship team. And they were good, that Cherry team. But Koi they were up big, and Koi made like 5 straight shots. Danny Collins is there, you could ask about. He made like 5 shots, 5 straight threes, like in the span of a minute and a half. That place was going bonkers, and he was just, he was feeling it. And I remember thinking, man, this kid's a winner. Like, they're outmanned by Cherry, but this kid is just going off, to keep his hometown in. It's like he's just a winner. He's a kid that knows how to make plays, and I don't care if it's basketball, baseball, football, that carries over. That's in you. And so when that ball's in the air, it doesn't surprise me. He's going to go grab it.
I will just continue to say this. He is the most fearless true freshman I can remember in a Gopher uniform, where the moment he steps onto the field, he believes in his mind, without a doubt, he is the best player on the field.
Yes.
And he's a kid from Esco, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Now it's you're not playing Moose Lake, you're not playing Duluth Denfeld, which I don't want to get everybody in Duluth all upset that said Denfield before. Denfeld.
I think you and I have made that mistake together. I heard you talking about that with Eric Nordquist.
PJ Ham's home. Look, I get it. If you're in Duluth, go see my guy Russ at Marine General. He'll take care of you.
Yep.
But like his ability to go from Esco, Minnesota, to down in Texas, to where he struggled the first couple of days at the All-American game. And then the lights came on and boom, he was ready. And now even the last couple of games, when you've given him opportunities, he is just incredibly fearless, and he is the most confident individual. And now I know that, Rovnak's going to tell you he needs some more media training for some of us media jackals that ask him after the game. Because you know me, I'm trying to hurt the Gopher football program, as I often do, asking questions about what did you think of the brandishing penalty?
Yep.
And Koi goes, that's terrible.
Yeah.
And then Ja looks at him, which is so funny. It's like the senior and the freshman.
It was perfect.
You can't.
We can't control what the refs say. And then Koi goes, oh, yeah. Like, oh, yeah. That's what I'm supposed to say. That was a perfect moment. I mean,
don't change, Koi. Say what's on your mind.
Yeah.
Well, now I saw he's on with Grimmer, so.
Yeah.
But again, when is the jersey coming in the mail, Chipper? When are you ordering the number 3 jersey to wear in the Rose Bowl press box?
Yeah, I can't do that, but I've been a big admirer of him from that, just meeting him, and you're right. There is zero doubt in that kid's mind when he, you think some people probably have a little bit of doubt. Can I make this play? There is zero doubt when he steps on the field that he's going to be able to make whatever play is asked of him. I want to see a 3-way player. Put him on offense. Do some
I think you will.
Wildcat. Put him on Wildcat. Let him see what he can do.
I bet you will. In the next
Get him on a jet sweep.
Why wouldn't you? It was funny that PJ made some headlines from the radio show with Grimmer and I, saying that on Wednesday during the week he had players all take shots of confidence. Chip, I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that. No.
In PJ fashion, he lined up like little thimbles, basically, of confidence that they all had to drink. It was Sprite, for the record. So Sprite is running with this.
Do you know Chip? Do you know why it's funny that it's Sprite of all things?
No, I missed all.
You ever
this.
heard?
Sorry.
You ever heard of lean, Chip?
Heard what?
Of you know what? Never mind. Keep
lean. No, say it,
Randy. I don't know where you're going, Randy.
I'm confused as all can get out with
right.
shots
Anyway.
and lean. What are we talking about?
So he gets them all. So there's been some pretty good memes of like, how did you beat USC? And it's like Sprite. That's how we did it. And I said to somebody yesterday, I go, did Koi just skip the Sprite line? Because I don't think he needed a shot of confidence. Like, I feel like that could be confidence overdose. Maybe give Koi's shot of confidence to somebody else that needs it. That might need a double. I feel like
that
don't
kid's
they
not
say
losing confidence.
No, like so too much of a vitamin is a bad thing, right? That's what they'll say sometimes. Like you don't want to have too much of this, or you'll get sick. But yeah, he's a dude, man. He's a stud, and what a moment to have him on everybody's shoulders. And there's been some great pictures of all of that, and that's a moment, and that's a memory, and that's a fun part about all of it.
Well, you talk about a great way to, or just if you could script it, you go for it on 4th down and goal line, and you get the touchdown where that was unlike things we've seen from PJ, the aggressive part of it. Then you come back and a guy who is already is he the most popular guy on the team with the fans?
Yes,
he's top three.
A fan favorite. He has a real chance to leave a big time mark with this program, I would say.
Yeah, the first chapter of the Koi Perich book as a Gopher has been really good. Now he's going to make a mistake at some point. I mean, he's a true freshman in the Big Ten. It'll happen, but the way he just continues to impact games, not even the interception, he puts his helmet on the football.
Yeah.
He's able to get that one out. Again, we'll see how much. I wouldn't shock me to see him more this weekend. Now, he played, I think, 40-something snaps because Kerry Brown went down.
Right.
But if Kerry can't go, and, I mean, you saw it like I did, Guardsy. He looked like he was fighting demons out there on that first quarter.
Yeah.
Starts punching the air, which tells me concussion. He goes to the locker room with a towel over his head.
Yep, that was tough.
If Kerry can't go, wouldn't shock me at all to see a lot more Koi Perich against UCLA. And where can we potentially talk about that with fans on Friday, Guardsy?
You and I could talk about that potentially at Barney's Beanery in Pasadena on Colorado Avenue, I believe on the Rose Bowl parade route. And I know that's where the Soda Social is happening. So we're just going to jump in with that. We're not going to pilfer away. Because everybody would just come see us. They wouldn't go to the Soda Social. So we don't. They would obviously, even though Chip's going to be hanging in Laguna, watching the next quarterback of the future down there in Laguna. We will be at the Soda Social, the official one. A lot of you are already going to be there anyway because of your Creative Charters trips, which there's like 12 of those, which is awesome. So come hang with us on Friday afternoon, Barney's Beanery, Pasadena, Colorado Avenue. If you want to go hang with Chip, I'm sure you'll have a hot dog with somebody down at Laguna Hills High School, won't you, Chipper?
I've actually a friend texted me, said they are planning to go watch young
Jackson Pollock at Laguna Beach.
Yeah.
I love it.
I will be there. Sorry I can't be with you guys, but I'm gonna go pick up a story.
Well, do you think, Guardsy, that Chip could recognize, say, Lauren from the OC if she shows up?
Come on. No chance. I could. Trust me. I could. You want to talk about my wheelhouse of my generation? Yeah.
Well,
Audrina,
not only
Heidi,
does he know
Kristen.
Chipper, I got hit with a trust me. I could be able to recognize her.
That's Lauren Conrad to you. All right.
Oh, okay.
That's Lauren Conrad to you.
Excuse me.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let's pause here. We got a crazy college football Saturday to talk about. We've got goalposts ending up in a Nashville river. We've got Kalen DeBoer on the hot seat, not for his coaching, but for his clothes. I can't wait to tell you this story, guys. But let's pause and talk about our great partner at Jack's Cafe. Make your reservations at jaxcafe.com. It was a Big Ten Network game on Saturday. The president of the Big Ten Network was in town having dinner with Mark Coyle the night before the game. Where does Mark Coyle choose to bring the president of the Big Ten Network for a lovely dinner? It'd be a really bad story if it wasn't Jack's Cafe, but it was. Jack's Cafe. Bill ran into Mark. I got a selfie of Bill and Mark. We got the Coyle family matchbook, the whole bit. It's good enough for the AD and the president of the Big Ten Network when they're having a big, high-functioning corporate dinner. And it's obviously good enough for us. We love everything about Jack's Cafe, but that's if it's a big dinner that you want to impress somebody, business dinner, Jack's Cafe. Happy hour, hang out with your brosifs, Jack's Cafe. Brunch with the family, Jack's Cafe. It's just perfect for everything.
Where else would they go? And if you've been eating fish and chips in London for the last week, I would kill a steak from Jack's Cafe. I would absolutely eat that thing in like 4 seconds. It sounds so good right now. And of course, Mark Coyle's going to take the president of Big Ten Network to. Where else are you going to take him? Right?
It's true. It's true.
I would hope that it ended with a Chip Scoggins special and
creme brulee. Oh God,
So whether you want to go get a steak for a date night or an anniversary, whether you just want to go get a burger and pull up to the bar, I mean, they got some awesome craft cocktails there. Or it's brunch season. It's finally going to get cool at some point. That's what they keep telling me as I continue to sit in tree stands in 75 degrees. But if it's good enough for your athletic director, JAX, cafe.com, Guardsy.
What a Saturday. What a wild Saturday. And we got to start with the craziest one.
Yeah.
Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. Now, Chip, you are the SEC historian here. First of all, Vanderbilt has never beaten a number one team. But can you just give us perspective on – we talked about Alabama-Georgia last week. What an awesome game it was.
Yeah.
What the hell was – as you once said to me, what was that?
Yeah. When I heard that Vanderbilt beat Alabama, I was like, in football? Like, that does not happen. As you said, Lane Kiffin said, you won't see it again in your lifetime. I have no idea how that happened. Other than, who's on the Vandy staff and sideline?
Coach Kill, the guy who can't stop.
I do think
quarterback from New Mexico State.
I do think the portal. Now this is a outlier, but I do think the fluidity of college football and the portal, that how teams can just bring in a veteran quarterback or 15 new guys, that we shouldn't be as surprised as. Now that one shocks me, but we shouldn't be surprised by some of the upsets, because I just think we've talked for years about how college football has a parity problem. I think the portal has closed that gap significantly, because you can just remake your team on the fly, basically, and you don't have to rely on an inexperienced quarterback or a freshman quarterback. You can just go get a guy. You can go get a Max Brosmer out of the who, for whatever level he's played at, he's played college football for 4 years, and he's a mature person, and he's done it. You can just go do that now. But I saw the images of them carrying the goalpost down Broadway in Nashville.
So good.
Who in the world thought Vanderbilt would tear down goalposts and take him down Broadway after beating Alabama? It's like, I'll say it every week on here. College football's undefeated when you see that, man.
Carry it 2.5 miles. How many upset bachelorette parties were there when they saw a goalpost, or how confused were they?
Confused is the word. Like, what is going on?
Vandy I don't know if you've been to the campus. Vandy's not a short walk to Broadway.
That's 2.5 miles from what everybody keeps saying.
Yeah, it's a haul.
The liquid encouragement for the first mile, I'm sure everybody had the adrenaline. You're already jazzed. And then I'm sure it was like, how far do we have to go with this thing?
You think they stopped and rest? Wait a second, boys. Let's put it down for a second.
Well, then they were like, okay, we finally got to Broadway. Now what do we do? Let's go throw it in the river. Yeah.
Well, there is a river on the other end. You have to stop. It's going somewhere.
So does that mean that Vandy has to go get like a crane to get the thing out of the river? Or how does that all work now? Because that thing's going to be waterlogged. I have a lot of questions about the logistics of how do you recover a goalpost from a river?
I'm guessing the city does it and they get a bill. Would be my hunch.
Yeah, that would check. Yeah, that would check. But
it was like
I think the only thing to say about Bama is their defense. When Diego Pavia can put up 40 on you, and now that Vandy squad played to win the entire second half and they got rewarded, but that Alabama defense, Chipper, it's not great. Or even how about your Vols going down to Sam Pittman?
Yeah, I know.
What happened?
You start thinking about the playoff, man. You start thinking about the third Saturday in October. That's what we're all thinking. Bama's going to be undefeated. Tennessee's going to be undefeated. Mike Grimm's going to Knoxville for the first time. I gave him some recommendations. He's all excited. And then they're both going to come in there with that.
That's like an elimination game probably now. I mean, when you think about it, it could be.
Because we still have to play Georgia too. I mean, it's I didn't see it either. I think it was happening the same time that I saw the score when I woke up to use the bathroom at 4:45. We just didn't play well. And, in these big conferences, if you don't play well, I don't care who you're playing. There's and Sam Pittman's done it,
from one of the hottest seats in all of college football, gets the vote of confidence to stay.
Yeah.
And now he's beaten Auburn and Tennessee in the last 3 weeks.
Did you see him on the field though? His post-game interview?
No.
paraphrasing, he basically said to the Justin Gaard of whatever network it was, the sideline reporter, I'm not sure the AD's happy about this, but I sure am.
that is a man who's filled it. Speaking of post games, I saw the video of you, and was that Brosmer you're interviewing in the middle of 9 million people on the field?
Yes,
that was awesome.
Yeah,
was that the TV camera that got it, or who was that?
Yeah, it was on the Big Ten Network. Yeah, they must have been following Max, and so they zoom in, and yeah, it felt like we were right in the middle of that thing.
Were you getting crushed?
Yes.
So this was this live? It had to be live then, right?
Yes, it was live. I have no idea if you could even hear him, if it could sound good. Because even if you watch PJ's post game, like the mic keeps cutting in and out because so many people are in the way. Yeah. And so ours, I think, shrunk a little bit as well. But yeah, I had to follow him from where he need the ball. First of all, the idea was we have to go get him to the TV because they wanted him too.
Yeah.
And so we had to go with the crowd basically to the middle where they tried to get him to TV. And then we just got stuck, and I'm like, "You just want to do it now, Max?" Like, just like standing there like this, like, "Well, we can't go anywhere. Do you think we should just knock this out here?" He's like, "Yeah, let's do it." I'm like, "Okay,
that's awesome.
Here we go, 3, 2." Yeah,
I hope you got a picture of that somewhere. Somebody had to take a picture of that, right?
Well, yeah, a lot of people sent me the video, which was cool. I took a lot of selfies down on the field, including one extremely inebriated guy that couldn't figure out how to take his own selfie. So I had to do it for him. He's like, "I'm sorry, Guardsy." I said, "Bud, we're not going anywhere. Like, I have nowhere else to be. We're stuck. Just give me the phone." His friend was making fun of him. Had to help another 10-year-old like find his phone that he dropped.
Oh my gosh!
I know a couple of people did get hurt. There were a handful of people that did get hurt
from the jump or getting run over.
That 7-foot drop.
Yeah, because I'll always say this: like, if you're storming the field, take the stairs because that drop is farther than you think.
I was talking to Paul Rovnick about that a couple weeks ago, where I forgot how it came up. Is like he's like, that wall is taller than people think about when they come over that. It's like, yeah, we saw a guy standing down there, and it was above his head. I was like, God, that's got to be like 7 feet tall, right? And he's like, yeah,
probably,
you probably misjudge it when you're coming over it, and
Well, the other question I have for you, Guardsy, did you get your third game ball? Or how many game balls did the head coach hand out after that win?
Sources close to the situation can confirm that everyone gets a game ball for that one. It's another everyone gets a game ball. So if you're watching YouTube, I'll just tilt my camera up here. Those 2 game balls right there.
Oh, boy.
If things go as they usually do when everyone gets a game ball, there will be a 24-17 USC game ball behind. Because I was critical to the operation. I think
many people say that.
I think we can all agree that, it might have been this podcast that forced PJ to go for it on 4th and 1 or go get Max Brosmer in the portal. Modern offense. Maybe Chip should deserve a game ball. Yeah, it was the everyone deserves a game ball speech again. And so we'll see if that shelf behind me, if it adds, because I certainly need more crap in here. You guys can see behind me. I definitely need more things. Can I get you the Kalen DeBoer Alabama story, which is just too good?
Yeah.
I was, and we got to go here in a little bit because Burnsy's got coordinator day and availability today. Are you familiar with Joseph Goodman, Chipper? Writes for Alabama.com.
Yeah, I do know the name. I don't know him personally, but I know the name, yes.
Well, this is an interesting one. I got to say this is a first. Alabama loses to Vanderbilt. We just talked about that for a little bit. Here's the headline. Goodman, can someone please teach Kalen DeBoer how to dress? That's where his mind is right now. Does the lead. Wondering about Diego Pavia. He says, no. In Alabama, we're eager to understand why football coach Kalen DeBoer dresses like he shops at Walmart. Not that there's anything wrong with Walmart. That's where I get all my undershirts and ankle socks. It's just that the head coach of Alabama football should wear something a little nicer during the games than an oddly fitting, untucked workout T-shirt he found on the clearance rack next to the Little Debbie's.
Wow. God.
Lose one game at Alabama, and these are the stories that are being written by their columnists, huh?
I mean, have you seen this guy on the sidelines? First it was hoodies, and on Saturday it was the Bargain Shoppers Blue Light Special. They say that clothes make the man, and I'm not sure that's true, but the clothes DeBoer has been wearing during games kind of reflect the style of football at Alabama recently. Sloppy.
Wow.
What?
We went from like 0 to 100 and
like you said, Bernsey, let's talk about the defense. Let's talk about this.
Or play calling or whatever.
What he is dressed like makes the column after a Vanderbilt win.
Not only did Alabama lose to Vanderbilt 40-35 over the weekend, but DeBoer looked like cousin Eddie won tickets to the Bama game at the last minute. Pack up the RV, hun. We're going to the Music City. Like, what is going on?
What?
That's
I've seen
great
some columns written in my day. Well, first of all, cousin Eddie, I mean, you might want to modernize a little bit. It is Chip gets it. Chip
That's a great line.
Christmas vacation.
Pack up the RV. We're going.
What do you want to wear, babe? No time. We'll stop at Walmart along the way. Like, of all the things to worry about. Yeah, of all the things to worry about. And that to me, I just cracked up when I read that. It said, what are we doing?
It just means more in the South, man. It just means more.
Apparently. Wow. Okay. Wow. We're right
Vanderbilt's got a good team. You serious, Clark?
Wait till we learn that about Scott Frost and hoodies. Jimmy,
yeah, hoodies. I mean, you got PJ defending that he wears ties, shouting out his guy Mike Nolan after the game.
Yeah.
It's Chip. Now you're a columnist. Right?
No, I would not have done that. No.
But I'm sure there's times where you go,
what?
You think Royce would have taken that bait?
I don't think Royce's commenting on anybody's wardrobe.
Yeah.
No,
that's not.
Far be it for me to talk about someone's. Yeah.
Sports writers or media personalities talking about clothes. I'm not sure that's
my fashion choices. Should I wear the gray hoodie or the white one? I mean, no. And that, we're having fun, but like, I try to with PJ, and when I'm being critical, it's just football. Right.
It is just football.
Right.
Think strategy, decision making, management, whatever. I never really, all the other periphery stuff. I just feel like now you're getting personal. Like what is?
Why does Alabama's coach dress like the most used card in his wallet is a platinum membership at Goodwill?
Man,
Paul Bryant was a great dresser and fashion trendsetter. Ever hear of a houndstooth, DeBoer? Like, he's lost his mind. Well, you lose to Vanderbilt. I guess all bets are off. Yeah, I just keep going.
Oh, yeah.
I got to go find this when I'm done. This is
Ray Perkins was handsome in a sweater. Gene Stallings had style and gravitas. Dennis Franchione dressed like a mob boss. Mike Shula always looked sharp. Nick Saban was the Frank Sinatra of college football. In Nashville, cousin Kalen looked like an unseasoned chicken breast stuffed inside an old shoe. It just he can't stop. This is unbelievable.
Was that from today?
I don't know, but his premise is, at the end of the day, Miss Terry needs to be the official stylist for Kalen DeBoer. Nick Saban's wife, Miss Terry, needs to be the official stylist of Kalen
If Kalen DeBoer has any sense of humor, he'll show up in a tuxedo to his press conferences.
Oh,
the one from Dumb and Dumber. The one from Dumb and Dumber.
Yes.
Like, how do you walk into the press conference after writing that one?
Yeah, that's an amazing comment. But where I was going, Chip, is there's been times where I'm sure you're stuck. You're in the press box and you're like, I had an idea. I really thought I had a good idea, and then the game changed. Well, you know what's been bothering me?
The
hoodie
dresses.
Yeah, the workout shirts that Kalen DeBoer has been wearing, let alone he's lost like 4 games as an entire coaching career at any level.
Right.
But I'm sure there's a sense of panic when you feel like you have an angle and then you lose the angle and you got to figure out something else. But that was a new one for me. And
I've never seen anything. Yeah,
as savage as you can get. And by the way, I think he looks nice. I think he looks good. He's fit. He's in good shape. Like, I wish I looked like that in an Alabama dry fit.
I'd be wearing dry fits if I looked like that.
I know.
You want to touch on Project Rudy and then we can get out of here?
Yeah, we should probably touch on it just because I think as we tape this on a Wednesday this week, tomorrow in Nashville, in the shadow of falling goalposts on Broadway, the Big Ten athletic directors and SEC athletic directors are meeting. I think we might have talked a little bit about this last week. I've talked to Mark Coyle about it the last 2 weeks on the pregame show because more and more details are coming out about what they're going to talk about. And allegedly something that's on the table is this $9 billion private equity cash infusion from these 2 individuals and these 2 companies that are basically trying to, in their words, change college football, save college football, and give money to essentially 70 teams. And as they try to get this revenue sharing and profit sharing and everything figured out, there's a lot we don't know about it. I just read the Ross Dellinger story. I'm going to talk to Coyle about it on Saturday when we're at the Rose Bowl, because I think about 25 ADs have actually seen the PowerPoint, but it's basically giving it would give a lot of control over to this private equity firm and change college sports as we know it.
Well, it would, and I mentioned this, you asked me, like, what do you think they'll talk about there? And I said, I would not be surprised if they talked about breaking away and forming a football conference. And sounds like they would give them autonomy just to create their own rules and figure out, because this is the thing that schools are really wrestling with. And you ask every AD, I don't care if you're a rich school, poor school, or middle school, how are they going to come up with the $21 million to pay athletes? And let's be honest, the majority of that's going to go to football players.
Yep.
And so this $9 billion idea, Project Rudy, would essentially, to me, sound like it would just create a football league that's semi-professional, that would be a feeder system. And I don't know how you would, if it's an opt-in, or would you have a commissioner that would, a panel that would pick the schools that are in it? How that would work.
And they basically have to convince Slive and Petiti because go ahead.
Here's the thing, though, Guardsy. Even if you had 70, there's some pretty big differences within that 70. If you talk about the top 70.
Yeah, and I think I meant Sankey, but go ahead. Yeah, well, that's the revenue sharing is not equal. Like the top 7, 8, 9 teams, it's almost like a Yankees Rays situation, which I don't love.
So how would you, if you're in that? Let's be honest, 40 through 70, you're not in the same ballpark as the top 40. And so how would you come to the rules and ideas and agree upon uniformity and like revenue sharing and scholarship limits and all those things?
Well, I'll say this. I don't think they end up going with a private equity firm. I think they steal the ideas from some of this. And then if they do go to a tiered system where it's like, look, Chip, I think you can agree. If you're a Tennessee or an Alabama and you're thinking to yourself, why am I getting the same money that Mississippi State is? I get it from that aspect. And that's where you don't want to see it go to that tiered system where the Alabamas and the Ohio States are getting more than the Mississippi States and the Minnesotas. But I also get it from the point of view with the way this thing is going, that the teams that get watched most every single week want bigger slices of the pie compared to some of the other schools. Now it's
correct.
How does it all work? And that's where even just the name of it, Project Rudy, it's like, okay, well then you got the underdogs within that. And that's where there's a lot of things that these Big Ten and these SEC athletic directors and everybody in between have to figure out. I'd be gobsmacked if they went with private equity. But I also understand the way that this thing is going with the top teams in college football want to be paid for all the eyeballs that they get on a given week. I just don't know how you allow the rest of the 20 through 70 to keep up with the Joneses at that point.
Well, you do have to have, like, because it is like 8 schools that make up like 60 or 70% of the viewers.
Yeah.
Like when you look at like the biggest watch games every single year, and people can read this story. We're kind of glossing over all the details of it, but you have Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, who's all over this stuff. But you do have to have people to play. You know what I mean? You do have to have, you can't just play, if you're Ohio State, you can't just play Michigan, Oregon, Penn State, Alabama, Tennessee every single year and then just go, oh, by the way, like you have to have people to play. Everybody has to have people to play. And so the revenue, the piece that jumped out to me, Burnsy, is the same one where we're going to have this tiered thing, and then there's incentive to get into a higher tier, which I understand the relegation model, I think, is an interesting one. They do it in soccer, obviously, where Chip just was in London. But the more I read that story, the more I agree with you that we're going to look at this and see what we like from it. But I don't think the SEC and Big Ten really want to do this, to give away, some of their equity, because they're making a lot of money now. And they'll continue to make more money. I think they do want to steal it essentially and do something and figure out a way to do it on their own. Were a couple of the quotes that I saw in that story.
But they have to figure out how they're going to be able to pay players with get as much money from this whatever new plan they come up with, because schools do not have the money right now to cover this cost. They just don't. I mean, how many schools just have, all right, we got $22 million in savings that will every year that we're going to dole out to our, they don't have it.
And well, so and if they want to protect Olympic sports too, because that's part of
that's it.
Because most athletic directors do understand that they want to keep Olympic non-revenue sports, because there is a way you can do this without private infusion, is you can cut a lot of sports like teams have. Yeah. Right. I mean, we've even seen, I just saw something from Ohio State, like they're basically stopping funding to their gymnastics program, just like Minnesota did. There's only like 14 or 15 now in the country that run it. So they're trying to find a way that can save everything. Obviously get college football what it wants, but also keep the money flowing to these other non-revenues that a lot of people think are important. Some people disagree. I mean, I played one, for God's sake. You know, the program that I played for, it no longer exists. My two choices were Iowa and Minnesota. Basically, they don't have my program anymore. So, like, now I'm one person, but those things, I think I'm in favor of keeping.
I think there's still a mission.
Yes.
I think there's still a mission. That's why I think 5 years from now, you're going to have a breakaway football league, and everybody else is going to go back to the collegiate model that we've known it to some extent. I mean, there's still going to be change, but I just think because football brings it, everything that's happening with college football now is driven by football, right? The money, all these things. I just think this is probably a big step into the process of that they create a football league that breaks away, has their own thing, and is able to fund, you know, the revenue sharing with athletes. Yeah. And then you can go back to the NIL model with everything else.
All right. Well, more on that next week, probably, because I'll talk to Coyle again at the Rose Bowl. And the thing I like about Mark is, you know, he doesn't really make news himself, but he'll answer the questions when I go, reports are this. What do you think?
Yeah.
And so we've had a good couple of years, I think, with Coyle in the pregame interview. So I'm definitely going to ask him about this Project Rudy. My assumption is he's not going to be in favor of it because of the tiered thing, but also he does believe in, even though he cut 3 sports, he does believe in the whole model. Like, I think he's a throwback in that regard. So I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm curious to hear what he has to say about it. Lastly, real quick, Bernsey, have you ever been to the Rose Bowl where we will be in Pasadena? Have you ever been in that stadium?
Not. All right. What's it been? 62 years since the Gophers last played there?
I believe that's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
The last time they've played in the Rose Bowl was the Rose Bowl game. They played UCLA in 1978 in Los Angeles at the Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
So the last time the Gophers were on this field, Bobby Bell and Sandy Stevens were running around on it.
That's
and
awesome.
That's how long it's been. But Chipper, tell Bernsey what he's in for. And what we're all, or fans that are making the trip that have never been there, because I've been there. It's magical, and it's going to be different because it's not the Rose Bowl game, but it's still the setting, and it's still the stadium, and it's obviously still the iconic. There's going to be a long line taking pictures in front of the Rose Bowl sign.
Well, Chip, do you think 10,000 or 15,000 Gopher fans, or where do you lie on how many do you think actually show?
I'll split the difference. I'll say 12-5. How's that?
Okay, Guardsy?
Yeah, I think it'll be Colorado on steroids.
Yep.
Yeah. I've been there once. Obviously, I covered the Rose Bowl and the Texas USC Reggie Bush, Vince Young. Is that one of the greatest college football games ever? And it is, if you're a college football fan, even if you're not, but if you're a college football fan, grew up watching the Keith Jackson, televising that, and it is magical when that sun sets. And I'm glad fans are going to get that over the mountains. It's purple, red, different shades, and it's it's not the same as being in the Rose Bowl. Obviously, the bowl game and all that goes with that. You know, the parade and all that, but it is a bucket list, and I'm glad a lot of Gopher fans are going to get to experience it because it is a magical place.
Every single time my dad goes to California for business, he drives to the Rose Bowl, parks outside Gate A, and takes a picture of the sign.
Takes a picture, yeah.
I mean, he walked out of there in 1986 with his beloved Iowa Hawkeyes and said, "I'm going to come to every Rose Bowl for the rest of my life." Didn't happen, but he has been there. But I mean, that's what the place does to you. Like that is what the place does to you. So everybody that, as we tape this now, people are probably on planes. I know one of the trips, Creative Charters was heading out Wednesday. So have a great time whenever you're going out there. I know a lot of people are coming out. We'll love to see as many of you as we can on Friday afternoon at Barney's Beanery. I know the tailgate has over 1,000 people. The official Gopher tailgate has over 1,000 people that are going to be out there on the golf course, which is by far the biggest number they've ever had for a road bit. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're all looking forward to getting out there. The Pair and a Spare crew reunited on the road. We finally got a little Scoggins time, Burnsy.
That's right.
Look at us. We'll have to take a picture from the press box.
We'll do it.
I'll probably go to the tailgate, so I don't know if you guys will be there.
We'll be around. I'll be soaking it in.
Yeah, I want to talk to some people and pick up a story from there too. So I'll see you at the tailgate.
There we go. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Safe travels to California if you're going. Remember to start every day at 100%. Remember to go to jackscafe.com to make your brunch or dinner reservations. And we will talk to you next week on the Pair and a Spare podcast. Bye, everybody.